It's a shame that you have to destroy the sets after you make a movie, because it would be fun to have a kind of like a misery land of, like a witch fledgling farm and a lighthouse and a Viking village.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Oh, pleasure. My pleasure.
So, there's so much I could talk about this movie, but when you were researching, what was the one piece of lore or folklore or part of the story of Amleth that spoke to you the most?
It was probably his relationship or belief in the Norns of fate. Mm. It's an integral part to the story, to the movie, and for me to understand Amleth, the fact that the Vikings believed in these three female entities that weave a tapestry and the fate of each and every human being. So they believe that these Norns are ultimately the most powerful entities in the universe, in the Viking universe. So that was a big part of understanding Amleth, was the fact that he genuinely believed that they were controlling him in a way. Mm. And also a Fylgja, which is also a female spirit, but that lives inside of him. Mm-hmm. That was also something that fascinated me. The fact that it's a spirit that guides him. I was intrigued by that, the juxtaposition of that.
Yeah.
Him as a testosterone-filled Viking berserker, but that he believes that there is that duality, that dichotomy within, that he's also a female spirit and guided by the Norns. That was quite interesting in exploring, in order to understand how he saw the world and himself in that world.
Yeah, that's really interesting, especially in the context of the two women in the film who were so important to him, and that duality between them and his uncle and his father. And speaking to that one side of him, that berserker side, how did you keep up that kind of level of rage consistently throughout the film and shooting? Because that is such a large part of Amleth's journey. What was that like for you?
It was exhausting. And also quite cathartic. I'm naturally quite a mellow guy, and I don't often tap in or explore the more atavistic side of my personality. That we all deep down, we're all animals, and but to kind of just open up that and letting go of inhibitions in those sequences, just to kind of let that animal out, let that beast out, was thrilling and quite cathartic and really exhausting as well.
Yeah. And what was your first day like on set compared to your final day on set?
The first day was, I would say the first 2 weeks were, I think it was a coincidence. I don't think it was planned, but the first 2 weeks were we shot short scenes around Fjellner's farm that were very pedestrian, just like us walking, a short scene of me carrying something, and it was a real good opportunity. Rob and I had been working together for several years before we shot the movie in developing it, but we'd never been on a movie set together with a camera. So I theoretically knew how he worked, the fact that all the scenes were shot on film, one camera, no cuts. But it was a great opportunity in those 2 weeks, together with Jerry and Rob's cinematographer, to figure out that rhythm of how do we actually work together on set? What's the relationship, the dance between myself and the camera, and how do we make that flow so that by the time we got into the more elaborate, complex scenes, we had a bit of a head start in shooting those smaller sequences. So that was a good way to that style, that type of filmmaking.
My first question is, this movie, pun intended, it seems like such an epic undertaking in kind of every sense. How did it compare for you from making The Witch and The Lighthouse to taking on something as kind of large in scope as this?
No, I mean it's completely insane. It was not a logical step after the lighthouse, and it's shocking that me and my collaborators were allowed to make this film, because frankly, like our resumes weren't up to snuff. But we were up for the challenge and decided to go for it.
And for you, when it came to the research that led you here, because obviously you were saying this was about something that you ended up reading far later, that your wife had already read, but what was your favorite or kind of coolest piece of lore or mythos that spoke to you when you were researching the film?
I mean, when I finally talked to Alex Skarsgård and we decided to try to make a Viking movie together, it was when I stumbled across this Nordic folktale of Amleth that Saxo Grammaticus, this Danish historian, wrote down, and Shakespeare read Saxo's version, and it became Hamlet. So then I have a story that everybody knows, so I can make a big popcorn movie that is easy for everyone to understand, but I can also share, Viking religious culture and mythological culture and ritual culture, which you can't normally do to this degree in a film this size. Look, there are some other sagas that I like more than that, but that was the key of inspiration that opened the doors to everything.
Yeah, maybe those sagas are for next time.
But I integrated, Shiona and I, my co-writer, we integrated stuff from all of our favorite sagas into this,
What was your first day on set like compared to the last day?
The first day on set was rainy and cold and miserable, and the last day on set was on stage, thank goodness, But the last day on set, Ethan Hawke put his arms around me and my DP, Jaron Blaschke, and said, well, congratulations, guys. You've done everything you can possibly do in a movie on this one, so now you can do anything. And we thought to ourselves, yeah, now we finally know how to make this movie.
And there's obviously a lot of folklore and mythology in here. What do you think about fans who see the folklore of your movies as all existing in one world? The Witch, the Lighthouse, the Northman. Is that something that you think about, or is that something that you kind of enjoy when you hear?
I mean, they're not related. I mean, I know Anya's a witch in both movies, but other than that, I don't quite get it. But I would, it's a shame that you have to destroy the sets after you make a movie, because it would be fun to have a kind of a misery land of, a witch fledgling farm and a lighthouse and a Viking village, might be kind of fun.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a lovely day. Congrats
Thanks,
on the
you
movie.
too.